Hello, hello, people of the internet. I am American McGee,
I'm Martin.
and it's been a very long time since the last time we did this. We actually were looking at the folder where we put our streaming assets, and you said that it was like February?
Yeah, when I fired up Alice, it said last played February 10th.
That's crazy town. So for those of you who don't know, we are streaming to you from Shanghai, China, and there was a period of time there which lasted for you nearly 3 months, like 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Where we were locked down. And according to the Western news media, it was draconian lockdown. And the lockdown was related, of course, to the global pandemic, to COVID. And so during that period of time, actually, this is the first time I've seen you since February.
Probably February.
So that's February, March, April, May, June, July, five. It's been 5 months since the last time I saw you.
5 whole months
But it's
without me.
It's weird though, because you and I talk almost every day. Monday through Friday, we get on a phone call together and we talk. So it's like we haven't seen each other, but we never really stopped communicating. Anyway,
Yeah.
same would be true for our lovely viewers. For a lot of them, our insane children, we haven't seen you for a while on a live stream, but then we also never really stopped communicating because during that whole period of time, we were posting updates on Patreon and Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So you knew that we were still here alive and well, even though we couldn't do live streams.
Yep. It's all been good. We haven't been sat around doing nothing, still being active.
Wendy J is asking, has Martin met Lilu yet?
I have just like 10 minutes ago.
Just a second ago.
Went upstairs and there she was.
Yeah. For people who don't know what a Lilu is, where is it? Art? There we go. That's Lucky, who many of you know, and that's my wife. What's so funny?
I was laughing at that sort of like little mushroom bowl cut hairstyle he's got.
It's so cute. He's such a little boy, and look, he's holding a car.
When is he not holding a car?
Exactly. But that's Lilu right there. That's our newest little baby, and she popped out right in the middle of the lockdown, And so that was kind of crazy that we had to go do several of these hospital visits right in the midst of the entire city of Shanghai of 25 million people being under this complete lockdown. So we were literally the only car on the road when we would do the drive to go to the hospital for either the pregnancy pre-birth checks or obviously when the baby came out, which in a way was kind of convenient because there were literally no other vehicles on the road, and it made it like we could just get to the hospital in no time at all. So that was kind of good.
Ah,
Aw,
look at that.
look at that. She's got blue eyes.
Mm.
Yeah, we don't know if that's going to stick or not, but they're very cute for now. She's got little blue eyes. So, yeah. So that happened during the lockdown. Who do we see in
Yeah,
the
let's say some highs before we get into some lockdown imagery.
yeah.
Deeps to the Peeps is here. Tom Resnick is here. Ghibli Girl, Octo Chicken, Patient 322.
Wow. Lots of our
all the regulars. I
all
saw Lucky Dragon earlier.
Hello, Lucky Dragon and
Lucky for
Octo
me.
Chicken. Yeah, Deeps to the Peeps. Wendy's there.
So
Craig is there.
Who's new?
Almarixia. I feel like I've seen that name before, though.
Aesthetic Stoner, Kitty Lynn, Pastel Witch, Zobug.
There's a hello from Texas. Shouldn't it be a howdy from Texas?
There's a lot of Texas stuff I notice. When I'm doing like Zendesk for the shop, there's a lot of Texas.
Texas
Just
has
stands
a lot
out.
of people, and it is, the biggest and best state in the U.S. And I don't say that because I'm a Texan and I'm biased towards Texas, but yeah. All right, so we're gonna get into it. So what are we doing today? We have a lot to catch up on. We do have a giant design Bible update that was dropped over on Patreon during this period where we couldn't do live streams. So we do have that loaded up here. Now, for those of you who maybe need a little bit of an update, we are doing pre-production towards trying to get a third Alice game made, and our emphasis on that for our design team is to build this thing we call a design Bible, which is basically like if you were to take the entire video game and compress it down into a giant graphic novel, you would end up with a design Bible. That is one of the three sort of legs that the table needs to stand on for us to get a new Alice game made. Another leg would be finances, which is another thing we're working on, trying to raise the money, and another thing would be finding a suitable development team or forming a suitable development team to build the game. So we're going to talk about those three legs today, and we'll also scroll through this Design Bible update, but you can go over and for free grab the Design Bible update. It is over on Patreon, and I can't remember what was that post called. Do you remember what that was called?
Don't.
Well, I don't know. You can scroll around. I think if you just type Design Bible into the search over on Patreon, and it is a free post, so even if you're not an insane child, if you're not supporting us over there, you can go and download that. And this one is 118 pages, but I think the final thing is going to be probably around 350 or maybe 400 pages, which will be giant.
Many pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Look,
was it Deeps to the Peeps just said I looked concerned about the hype train. It wasn't that. I noticed that there are messages appearing here that we're not seeing on our chat monitoring. So something screwy's going on.
So it looks like only YouTube messages are appearing on. No, because there's Octo Chicken in there.
So YouTube isn't appearing here, even though it should be. It says multi-stream.
Don't talk
Sorry
about
if
it.
we miss anything. It's a little screwy.
Just keep an eye on. Anyway. All right. Where was I? I was talking about what we're going to do today. So we're going to do this update on progress since the last stream on the Alice Asylum pre-production stuff. We're going to take a look at the Design Bible. We're going to look at some art. We are going to give away prizes. We forgot prior to the start of the live stream to determine what we were going to give away, but I guess it just makes sense we give away plushes because we've
got a few of them.
That's what we do. Did we even bring that page up? Oh yeah, it's there. So we do have a bunch of plushes. I guess what we could do today is we'll just say that if you win during one of the four prize giveaways that we'll do during the stream, could they just pick any plush and we send it out?
Probably.
Okay, so we'll just do it that way. So today we will give away 4 plushes, and it's your choice. When and if you win, then you just go over and scroll through and pick which one you want, and then you'll send an email to Martin, and he'll have one sent out to you. So
Are
it's
we
like
going
that.
to are we going to have any like ones that you can't, like the doubles or the big old bunny sets, or are we just going to
Ju-
say any?
Just let them pick
It's been a
any.
while. Let them pick.
Just any. Yeah. So I mean, if you really want to be a jerk, you could get the most expensive one, which I guess is this 8 mini bunny set thing. Um,
Yeah.
But I mean, not everybody's a jerk. People may decide that they have had their eye on a Cheshire Kitten and they'll go and grab a Cheshire Kitten. So I don't know.
Cat the Brat says giveaway. Oh my god, this is such an exciting stream.
Woo!
Do
You know it.
giveaways every stream.
We do giveaways every stream. So why don't we jump in first to playing a little bit of Alice Madness Returns, and while we do that,
Is that all the lockdown stuff we're looking at? Okay.
well, I thought we were going to talk about lockdown stuff while I played the game. This is why I brought up to you whether or not we even needed the game today, because I thought maybe people would be interested in hearing a little bit about what happened to us in Shanghai during the lockdown. So how do we look at pictures and play the game at the same time?
We don't.
So what do you want to do?
We could quickly go through the pictures then.
Okay.
Is
All
this the pile where you got the fish?
That is funny. I do think the fish is in this pile. That was disgusting. So yeah, Shanghai had this lockdown. It was crazy. Now Shanghai operates on almost entirely online shopping, and China in general as well, but the country operates on an almost entirely online shopping driven retail economy. Would that be fair to say?
I think
Like,
so.
I think that if you are in China and you want to buy practically anything, including cars, the primary source for you to do that would be that you go on your phone and you buy the thing and it gets delivered to you. I even had a car delivered to me at the end of the lockdown. I should have put that picture in there. So I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying like everything gets delivered to you, including cars. And so there was a period there, though. How long did it last where we didn't get we didn't get deliveries?
It was at least a month and a half, I guess.
Yeah. So the thing that happened was this almost overnight instantaneous lockdown. And if you had orders waiting or that were out there in the ether prior to the lockdown, then those orders just got stuck in a warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my wife's mom, Lucky's grandma, had ordered, I guess, a fish. And it was in like a styrofoam kind of box container. Like you couldn't, it was kind of nondescript, but it was in a plasticky kind of bag. And inside of that was a styrofoam box. And inside of that was a bag in which there had been fish in a bag. And it had been sat in a warehouse for 2 months. And when I opened it, I literally gagged. I wanted to throw up. It was so bad. So yeah,
Glad I didn't see that.
I'm glad that you didn't. Well, it wasn't a seeing thing. It was more of a smelling thing. Yeah. What else went on? So we got really addicted to these maps that were showing the situation with where the cases were being detected.
This seemed weird though. It's like what was said on one site didn't reflect what was said on another, and they were
Well,
they
there were
were, they were odd.
delays. There were delays in reporting, but what you're looking at here basically is like what caused the problem, which is there were 1,000 cases in this district of Shanghai, and then these numbers either represent the societal cases, which is here with 0+0. That means like just people giving it to people out on the street, and then this number above that was the cases that were happening in the quarantine centers. Because if you got infected, then you'd be sent to a quarantine center, and then they would record those numbers for people who got it in the quarantine centers or something. Also, those
Right.
numbers reflected the flights that came in, and if you were positive when you landed on an airplane, you'd go into one of these quarantine centers, and then that number would increase as a result.
Yeah. But look at Fengxian looking all green and healthy.
Well, yeah, I mean that was the thing. We're here. Well, I am. You're not.
You're
You
kind
are.
of near that notch, aren't you, at the
Yeah,
bottom?
we're right here. So where I live is called Fengxian District, and most people in Shanghai don't even know where Fengxian is. And where Martin is in Jing'an, which is really like the heart, the center of Shanghai. It's right here.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a little zoom in bubble. So Martin is in this central area here.
Yeah.
And
Probably just above that 11.
you guys really got hit pretty hard because you're super dense. Pudong got hit hard, but for different reasons. And yeah, you guys struggled. We were in the green almost from the beginning because there's nobody out here. I basically live in the countryside. So yeah, this is all crazy stuff. 2 months of constant testing, 2 months where you couldn't leave your house. So what happened with you? Like,
At the beginning, you were kind of allowed out into the compound, into like the courtyard area, but of course everybody had masks on and they were kind of staying away from each other. But yeah, after a few weeks, they got even more strict on that, and it's like, do not leave your house unless you have to.
did you put any pictures in here?
I sent you a couple, but they weren't very
Oh,
exciting.
okay. All right. Were they
Um,
as exciting as this cup of
might have been
nuts
a bit
and
more
I
exciting
see.
than that.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty terrible where I was. Didn't like it because I live alone, so all I had for company was a compound full of aging Chinese people.
Hmm.
Didn't really have much chance to speak English other than like on a phone or a WeChat call. So yeah, you do miss people after a while.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it was a crazy time for sure. We I think benefited from being out in a place where there's not tremendous huge population. It's not very dense. But we still were locked into our compound and we still had to do constant testing. So this is like one of the testing centers. This one still exists over by our house. Yes, I know about the lag, Martin, but it's back now, so don't worry. Um, and that's the other thing. We live in a house and we actually have a backyard. So where you were locked into your apartment and you weren't able to socialize, inside of the compound where we live, not only are we not just limited to our house, we have a backyard, but also there's children that live within our compound and they were coming over and playing with Lucky. And so, big difference between one part of the city and another in terms of the experience that people had. And of course, I think a lot of you probably in the West, what you primarily saw was like the people that were hanging out the windows of their apartment building, banging their pots and pans and saying, "We're starving to death." Now, for the record, literally no one actually starved to death during the entire lockdown. But I think it's true to say that a lot of people, including myself and including you, experienced something that you could call food insecurity because there was a period of time there where it wasn't clear to anyone how enough food was going to get delivered, and you had people posting pictures online of like, this is all I have left, and it was like a banana and a can of Coke.
at the very beginning, because it was nonsense at the beginning. First, there was rumors that it was going to happen, and they went, no, it's not going to happen. And then a few days later, they went, well, it is going to happen, but
Yeah.
it's only for like 4 days.
Yeah,
And then it lasted 2 months.
that's right.
So at the beginning, it was a bit of a mess. And that's when the food insecurity was.
Yep.
I myself, I was probably like 2, 3 days away from running out of food with no way to get food. So I was concerned.
Yep.
But then the handouts started rolling in, like big bags of rice and eggs and canned meat and stuff.
Well,
so
one of the pictures that you did send me, which I'm sorry I didn't put in here, was a picture of the free food that was being sent to you. And we were also getting free food as well. So I'm sorry I did not include that picture in here. This is a very lame update on what was going on. These are a bunch of pictures related to me, the baby arriving and showing the empty streets of the city. And like, this was the document that you had to have, the special permission pass to even drive the car into the city. And this was Yen going to the hospital. And this is Yen before the baby popped out, like right before the baby popped out. Yeah, so it was a crazy time, but we got through it. I saw Greg ask the question, is all of China broken up into these compounds, or is it just Shanghai? So the compounds are called Shaochus, and basically, like the English translation of that, I guess, would be like a micro community. It means that everywhere that you might live, unless you're a farmer living on a field somewhere, is contained within gates or walls or fence or something. So And every one of those places, I guess in the West, you might think of it as a gated community. So like basically everybody in China lives in some form of a gated community or other.
Yeah.
And everywhere that exists, there's also this concept of a person who sits at the gate called a baoan. And to baoan means to protect the peace. That's like literally what the two Chinese characters mean. And normally what they do is they serve to keep people who shouldn't come in from coming in. So that means that it's all relatively safe because there's just no burglary, there's no car theft, there's no break-ins at all, right? Just zero of any of that. But what they did during these lockdown periods was they flipped the whole system around. So now not only were they stopping people from coming into a Xiaochu who shouldn't be in there, the people who lived in the Xiaochu are told by the Baoans, hey, the gates are closed and you're not going out. That I think is core to, it's central to why China is able to institute these kinds of control policies, because they already have these systems in place whereby your compound, your gated community, the security protocols can be flipped around a little bit to not only stop people coming in, but also stop people going out. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think that's why also, like, though I'm here and though I think that the way they've done it for themselves is correct for them, I would not advocate that other countries try to do things like this, because I just don't think that the culture or the infrastructure is set up to support that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry for all the lagging. As far as we can tell, the stream has never died, looking at the network meter, but VPN, China, what are you going to do? Sorry.
So I don't know what we can do.
But yeah, going back to, you said something a bit earlier that reminded me. Like people like banging pots and pans. Every now and then it was kind of like a party outside. People blowing whistles and screaming and shouting and banging pans, and people flying drones around and flashing lights out their windows and stuff.
Right.
I think it was kind of a protest rather than a party.
Well,
And
it's
the police
also
did get called on occasion.
it's also really important to note that, like, a lot of times the Western perception of China is that it's this singular government entity that is all seeing, all knowing, and all controlling. And the truth is that that's not at all the case. If you look at these maps of the city, you'll see that the city is divided into different districts, and then the districts are divided into different xiaochus. And there's a bunch of different ways in which those areas and the individual xiaochus manage themselves. So you have a layer of government at the very top, the mayor, the city, whatever, and then it goes down to the individual district level government, and then from there it goes down to something called the Zhu Hui, which is like the management for a group of Xiaochus, and then you have the Wuye, which is the guys who manage your Xiaochu in particular, and then you also have like community groups within the Xiaochus. So the process of like distributing the free food that went out, in some places, some of the guys who were responsible for distributing the free food didn't do it or they stole it, or they, like, whatever, you know.
I heard that they were keeping a significant percentage back for themselves and selling
Correct.
it at the gate.
And you know, this, I mean, so that's terrible, but it kind of does two things. One, it shows you that this is not an all-seeing, all-powerful Eye of Sauron type of government that's running stuff. Just like any other kind of government or system in the world, it's broken down and it's compartmentalized, and you will get bad apples within the system at some point. The other thing, though, that's interesting to note is that the failures that occurred, like the people who stole the food or the government officials who let the virus situation get out of control in the first place, those people got fired and or sent to jail, which whenever I was talking to Western critics of how China handles stuff, I would always ask the question, there's 1 million+ deaths that occurred in the United States. Name one person in charge of public health and safety in the United States who was fired over the 1 million deaths or any sort of misstep that took place. And I don't think anybody in the whole system ever got fired or even maybe reprimanded. So I think that one of the things that people also miss out on in terms of how China is reported is that there is a degree of accountability here. So yes, things go wrong, but also people are held to account for it, which, I don't know, reading the American headlines for how the thing happened, and because I'm an American, I can comment on this, I never really saw anywhere that it was said that anyone got fired for any of the missteps that took place during the American response to all this. And again, I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, or that the Americans should adopt the Chinese system. Nothing like that at all. As we said before we even started this live stream, I think we're all just going to have to wait for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years to see how this all shakes out. And we'll all look back in hindsight and be like, oh, we didn't do so well, or they didn't do so well. But like right now in the fog of war, who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? All right. We are now at the 30-minute mark, almost.
More or less.
Was there anything else in that art review folder that people ought to know about? That's a baby.
Baby.
Those are our Quiety
Fish.
packages.
Nuts.
Okay, so what's up with this picture? There was this period of time before the baby popped out that I had to take Yen to the hospital once a week for her prenatal checkup stuff. And so I would drive her into the city, but because of the pandemic controls, I was not allowed to enter the hospital with her, which meant I had to sit in the car. And oftentimes I was sitting in the car for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. So not pictured here is something more disgusting. But I'll go ahead and give it to you because you're here to be entertained. Was a bottle I took to pee in because the whole city was shut down. There's nowhere to go to the bathroom. And I basically had a choice of getting out in the car and peeing in public on the street, or peeing in a bottle in the car and then dumping that on the street at some point. So I opted for the pee in a bottle routine.
Just don't tell them about the shit bag.
No, don't tell them about that. So it was pretty crazy. So this is one of the knock-on effects of the fact that the whole city was shut down, and yet we had to go to the city for these maternity checks and for the baby to be born. So I would take a backpack full of snacks and water and a bottle to pee in. Fortunately, I did not need to poop in a bag, but I did have to pee in a bottle. So this is what my life looked like. I would sit there and watch YouTube on a pad while parked, on the street, and for how many ever hours I would just answer email, I would chat with you, I would watch YouTube videos, and I would wait, and I would watch the city go by. This was like a giant disinfection spraying machine truck. I don't know.
Yeah, they're kind of weird. Do they even do anything?
Well,
I mean, there's like a big cloud of disinfectant mist being shot out of the back, but how effective are they?
Who knows? I always felt cleaner though after they passed by. It was like a free shower. I'd get out and then I'd get my shit bag out and I would just kind of go roll around in the steam that was coming out. It was great. Yeah, so it was definitely a weird time. I think this picture I took this on one of the first chances we got to leave our Xiaoqiu. I took Lucky outside for a bike ride.
He does look like he should be in the Beatles with that haircut.
Yeah, he's a cute one. Yeah, like I said, this was Yen going to the hospital. It was quite busy. People were still having babies during the pandemic. So this is one of the things that also kind of brought up a bit of the contrast between the Western reporting, because if you paid attention to the Western reporting, there's always this China is fighting the virus and then dun dun dun, but at what cost? And one of the things you would see frequently cited as one of the but at what costs was, well, the whole city's locked down, therefore no one can get any sort of essential medical care. But we directly experienced the fact that they opened up all these corridors and ways for people to go and do things like get cancer treatment or have their kidney dialysis or give birth to babies. Like, we have direct experience with all three of those things, either for ourselves or for our neighbors. So we saw that 99% of the cases, people were still being taken care of as they needed to be. Of course, what you saw in the Western news was like one case where one person died that might have been avoidable, but then the Western news would trumpet that to heaven. So, yeah, this was Yin with the baby bump. That's a testing center. That's it. I think we went through it all. Yeah, this was our go bag for going to the hospital to have the baby. And that, like I said, that was the day the baby was born. So it was a nice day.
It's a nice picture, that.
I used to live in that building.
I was going to say,
yeah,
this is one of those near the
Jiangsu Yanlu. So it's kind of funny. In this picture, you can kind of, I think, see the first, this intersection was the first one where I lived. This I came back to, but I lived in one of the buildings over there for a while, and then I came back from that building and lived in this building, and I lived on one of those orange floors right there.
Are we looking east or west?
That is looking towards Hongqiao, which would mean you're looking
west.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This was morning, so the sun, I think, was coming up over there somewhere.
All right.
Anyway, okay, we've done enough. Pandemic, whatever.
Look at the time.
It's prize time.
Prize time.
Did you come up with a question?
Well, I guess I was going to ask the lovely people here, and to win something, you just have to be active in the chat. This is why we're asking a question. It's not the best answer wins. So just for the new people here, that's how it works. So yeah, you guys, did you go through a lockdown? I know lots of people did, but they were kind of a little bit more relaxed than our lockdowns. We
Don't.
literally couldn't leave our Xiaochus.
So wouldn't it be better to say to them, like, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being I didn't go through a lockdown at all, and 10 being I went through draconian lockdown, what level was your lockdown?
I'd still like to hear some stories if there's any good ones.
Oh, okay, well, whatever. You can answer the question either or. You can
Either
answer it in the
or.
American, efficient, proper way, or you can do Martin's story time way.
See, Angela Castle Star had one, but it was a bit more relaxed. Yeah, my friend in England, they told me that they had lockdown, but they were allowed to go to the shops like twice a week or something.
This Sintesh says something crazy. South Africa was mental because they banned smokes and alcohol from being purchased. Can you imagine that?
Smokes and alcohol.
You would imagine the degree of social unrest that would have been generated by that would have been bonkers. So that was one of the things here, was that people were still buying alcohol and cigarettes. So while you were reading these stories that Shanghai was starving, like, what I never understood was why didn't the BBC do a little special report on the sort of underground network of cigarette alcohol sales that sprung up during this period of time? You know, it's just crazy.
We did have that, didn't we? We had group buying. In our compounds, there would be like some like leader type person who had contacts who could like mass buy. And you would set up like little WeChat groups, and they would be like, hey, I can buy boxes of water, and I can buy like packets of cigarettes and whatever. And everybody would dive in, and they would have like 100 things delivered at once.
Oh, it was crazy.
So yeah, the group buying was interesting.
Yeah.
Did that a few times, got some Cornettos and some Magnums, you know, the important stuff
Now,
for surviving.
when you say Magnums, you mean the ice cream, not the condoms.
Both.
Oh, of course. I like to put my Magnums in a Magnum before I Magnum all over myself. Yeah.
But yeah, they were fun, you know, especially for me, because I'm like literally the only English speaker in my compound, I think. So every time one of these messages came up and there was like message after message of people talking, it was translate, 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 what's going on? I coped.
I mean, I have to say that your ability to survive that, or any kind of foreigner's ability to survive it, I think is more applaudable than just the average Chinese person doing it. Yeah, because there was a moment there where if you couldn't get into those groups and you couldn't understand what was happening, and I saw that. I saw a couple of places where, you know, a fresh arrival to the city who didn't have the social network, they found themselves really screwed, because it was like, imagine if you just got off the plane in a city you'd never been to before and then bam, lockdown. Well, for sure there were people in that situation, and I saw a few of them on the news. They were like, I just got here and then bam, lockdown, and I hate this place now. And of course you do. I mean, but you know, for your situation, I mean, yeah, you had to struggle through it a bit.
Little bit.
It helped for me to have a Chinese family around me, and my wife was doing all the group buying stuff and she was coordinating all this. So yeah.
So
all right,
it seems a lot of people were rating it reasonably low for them. So it does seem a little bit more relaxed for everyone else, although there's a couple of stories of it being a little more severe for some people. So
Ghibli Girl says she locked herself in a closet for 2 years and she's still in there.
Okay,
there you go.
She's in the closet.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, we're gonna roll it.
Roll.
And 3, 2, 1. It is Frecky42. Congratulations, Frecky42. You have won your selection of one of our fine Plushie Dreadful products. You will need to go over to mysterious.americanmcgee.com, pick out a plush. You're going to go straight for the most expensive one, aren't you? I know you are. And then once you've selected your prize, you'll want to send an email to support@mysterious.design.
Yes.
Yeah. And Martin will receive that email, and you'll want him to know your name, your phone number, your mailing address, and your prize selection. And you'll want to communicate that in the clearest, most, I don't know, least frustration-inducing.
Just format it, you know, name, house number and street, district, city, country, postcode, different lines, like a normal person.
Like a normal person.
Not just everything on one massive line. You know who you are.
Yeah. And then once you've done that, we will send the order to the warehouse and they will ship out your prize. Congratulations.
Yay! And our shipping partner
Oh, and
is pretty good these days.
you need to do that within 24 hours.
So you might get the plushie within like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy that actually we didn't even touch on that, which is that, we're running this plush business and the plush business is literally exploding. It's crazy. But during all of this, there were definite impacts to our business related to one of our warehouses got kind of shut down and then the other one got shut down and then they're just delivery delays in general. But we've sort of, knock on wood, we've weathered that storm and everything seems to be going okay again. So
yeah,
there you go. Okay, we took care of talking about where we've been and the whole pandemic thing, and I think we did that without stepping on any political landmines or upsetting anybody.
Yeah, we shilled for China pretty good. We should expect our check in the post.
Let me see. Oh, Chi-Ching, look at that. I got my 100 kwai directly from Xi Jinping for not shitting on China. So now we're going to go to look at, I think, the design Bible. Does that sound right?
If you want to.
Oh, we've got art too. How should we do this? There's so much stuff to look at.
Should we do art first? We usually do art first, don't we?
We can. It's kind of weird because the art is all in the design Bible. But anyway, we'll just go through this really quick.
Okay.
Did you print or do we have questions and stuff?
No, I figured we'd just look at Patreon on the website.
Oh.
Because, I mean, it's been 5 months.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got questions, then put them in the chat here as well. We're kind of messed up today because we haven't done this in a long time, so
we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, you'll need to forgive us. Right, so art review. So in the period where we vanished, we did still post bunches of art over on Patreon and Instagram. So I don't think people are totally out of the loop on this, but I will say that we are in an interesting phase now where the kind of exploratory art creation or that was happening simultaneous with the development of the narrative, that phase is done because the narrative is done. Again, if you're interested in reading the entire game narrative, that is over on Patreon. But what's happening now is that the entire game narrative is being used as the skeleton, the frame on which the design Bible is being built. And that means that a lot of the kind of exploratory art is finished. And now it's just like, here's a scene, we need to illustrate this.
And illustrated it was.
Correct.
Who's this one by?
It's
difficult to tell.
I feel like this is Omri.
I'm thinking Omri.
And I apologize to our artists for not always knowing exactly, but I feel like this is Omri. Now, we could go and look over on Monday, but I'm not going to do that right away. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But anyway, this was a scene that was done to illustrate Slumber, which is a section of the game you visit right off the bat. It's like the very first thing that you see. And this is where she sees the Liddell family home, and it's the night of the fire kind of replaying itself over and over again. And he's also put in this kind of hint, this elements of the snow globe there. So yeah, this is a pretty cool scene, and she's got the little white rabbit with her. So yeah, these are pieces of art that are being drawn specifically to illustrate sections of the design Bible. Web review, there it is. And if you scroll into the first pages of the design Bible, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't find something similar to that once the story starts up. So yeah, here's her in slumber and her arriving at her family home, and of course they're all melty and on fire and nonsense. So yeah, although I think that visit to slumber actually takes place much later in the game. I don't think that's the original visit to slumber. I think that's a revisit to slumber that happens later on in the game. So you probably won't see that image at the start of the design Bible.
All right.
And that's another good point to make, is that a large emphasis of the art that's being done now is being done for the later chapters of the design Bible, because obviously we started at the beginning and we've been working our way through to the end. So if you go scrolling through what's been done so far, you'll see a bunch of art that you may have already seen. And so a lot of the art that's being done these days is the stuff that fills in the end of the story.
Wendy J asking, this gon' be a print? Or, now I'm not sure, maybe she's talking about that main image that we're looking at now, or maybe one of those that was on the design Bible, like young Alice standing in the snow. That's a good idea. So when I'm like scrolling through Monday to try and like choose the prints for the poll that we have over on Patreon, like what are the next 6 months of prints going to be, looking at the design Bible might actually be a good idea to actually pluck out some good prints that might have been forgotten about in the mists of time. Can't do it for this year. This year's prints are already decided, but yeah, something for next year.
Are we gonna? Well, but we may not be around next year because the whole point of what we're doing right now is finishing the design Bible by the end of the year. So you better.
We'll be around next year.
No. Next year I'm gonna murder you. It's gonna be a murder suicide. I'm gonna find a way to fly down and murder suicide Alex. I'm gonna have to time the suicide.
You're gonna murder suicide different people.
Yeah, but I'll just kind of scratch myself a little bit until the final one. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we will still be here. But the point that I'm trying to make is that the design Bible will be finished. Now, the way in which we continue forward with Patreon and these live streams and things like that, which that's what we'll get to a little bit later in this stream, but it's what I'm working on. It's what I'm going to a meeting for tomorrow, in fact. And that is to secure a developer so that we can secure the funding so that we can go ahead and start getting this game made, right? So we'll get more into that a little bit later on. I guess that, yeah, I guess it makes sense. If we had art that people still wanted, even during that phase, you could be selecting that and sending it out.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, it was just an idea. There's probably a ton of art in that design Bible that has just either A, passed me by, or was B, made months ago and was forgotten about.
Yeah, that's true. There is such a giant stack of art that we didn't do into posters that if we got into that phase, we could still send them out. That makes sense. Right. All right. Well, moving on. This is a scene of... Whoo, boy, I know Joey did this one.
Definitely a Joey pick.
And as far as what this is supposed to represent, it's also very much towards the end of the game, and I believe it's Alice plus the character called Angela. And this is basically just supposed to be like the sweet, everything's fine, it's all over, the nightmare has ended scene that depicts, you know, adult, grown-up, fully healed Alice with like basically the stand-in for her child, right? Walking off into the sunset. That's it.
Spoilers.
Wait. Is there a... Oh,
spoilers. Spoilers.
Why don't you just leave that on all the time? Because, you know, it's interesting. Like I said, a lot of this art is all coming from the end of the game, so you might as well just leave the spoiler warning up there all the time.
Yeah.
Now, is this a spoiler? I don't know. This is another Joey piece of art. And this is a tea party between Alice and Shadow Alice. Now, I don't know if there is a specific scene in the game where you're going to see the two of them having tea together like this. I feel like this might have just been more Joey having some fun.
Joey being Joey, which is what we love. But
yeah.
the sister picture to this is one of the upcoming prints on Patreon.
Alex is in the chat there. I'm curious if he'll say that this is a scene, because I don't recall this being a scene exactly, but maybe it is. It must be, or otherwise we wouldn't be drawing it. So yeah, that's Shadow Alice having tea with regular Alice. That's funny.
Little spelt there.
Probably incorrectly. It's a little bit incorrect. It's all right. So the thing is that this reminds me quite a lot of these images you see that blow up on the internet of Disney Alice side by side with my Alice, right? And oftentimes you'll see my Alice like handing a cigarette to Disney Alice or something like that. So it's funny because we've managed to encapsulate that meme within the, you know, my Alice universe by splitting her in two and having, you know, her, which, yeah, she's, you know, it's child Alice. So I guess the notion is that our child Alice is sort of closer to the Disney Alice or the one from the books that you expect, because she's been locked away while all this nonsense, the blood and the guts and the knives and all that stuff has been going on. And so on the left side there is our Alice. It's the Alice from the games, because surprise, you've been playing as Shadow Alice this whole time, right? You're soaking in it. So I've said that so many times before. I don't know. Your buttons are doing something weird. There's like a little animation on there.
This is a multi-button. That's why it's doing it.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
So
Rainbowist Laney says, have you ever considered crossing Alice over with other games? I was thinking she'd be a good fit in games like Dead by Daylight. Yeah, so we can think about it all we want, but as we often say, Alice is owned and controlled by Electronic Arts, so any sort of crossover deals like that would be fully under their control.
Ooh.
So no idea. All right, moving on. Yeah, this was Alice eating the cake. I like this one a lot.
It's a good one, this. Another print that was chosen for Patreon.
Yeah, it's a beautiful one. Now, look, I had an initial reaction to it, which is a little kind of iffy because it looks and feels a little upskirty, you know?
It does.
And, you know, given the nature of the story and the general themes and whatnot, we obviously want to avoid stuff like that. And I've told this story before, but during the development of the original Alice, when I was at Redwood Shores at EA, there was an EA exec who came into the room, and I don't know how joking he was being, but he was like, hey, what happens if you swing the camera under her skirt? And that kind of traumatized me a bit. And I mean, like, I always felt very defensive towards her around that topic. And then when that happened, it was sort of, wow, did you really just ask that? It's kind of...
Did you say, like, dude, she's like 13?
Yeah, well... But, you know, it's funny because now that seems almost kind of quaint, you know, that 20 years ago. And, games in general have just gone on to become so much more violent and sexual and whatever. So, I mean, an image like this in today's world isn't that big of a deal. But if we had maybe had this back at, 20 years ago, it would have been much more triggering to people back then, I guess. So maybe we've all become a bit numb to it.
What game is it? I think it might be Lollipop Chainsaw, where she actually goes and she pulls her skirt down and hides it.
Yeah.
If you try swinging the camera that way.
Yeah. Well, I think that he was also hoping that there could be some sort of reaction system like that in there. But for me, the idea that you even acknowledge it, and especially if you did it in a playful way like that, totally destroys the legitimacy of the product and its core story. It takes away from it, right? If you're now joking about, oh, me the player, you're gonna give me this reward if I swing the camera under her skirt, so nah. Anyway,
yeah, Vampire Chick. I know that they're thinking of doing another Lollipop Chainsaw.
I saw that.
Such a fantastically nonsense, over the top, campy romp of a game. I loved it.
And I think in the context of something like that, where it is intentionally over the top and it's campy, and okay, then fine, go for it, But I think there's a time and place for it, and clearly this game isn't that. All that being said, it's a beautiful illustration by Joey. I really love it. And I also like when our artists, clearly she's adopted a kind of different painterly style. She's probably downloaded some cool new brushes from the Adobe shop, and she's like trying them out. It's great. Really beautiful.
True dat.
Take that, upskirt guy. Yeah, so where's that spoilers button? Okay, there will be spoilers here. How do we do this? I mean, this scene really kind of gives it all away. This encapsulates so much of where the game goes and where it ends up that I almost am afraid to kind of say it out loud. Should we?
Give it a go. I'll go if it's going too far.
Well, no, I mean, but this is it. This is the end point of the story. So you've played the first two Alice games, and you know that Bumby is this, person who's involved with selling, buying and selling children and brainwashing them, and involved in human trafficking. Well, the book that she has in her hand there, over the course of Asylum, is the book that contains the ledger of those sales. And once everything is resolved in her brain, and everything is resolved with Bumby's, sort of business partner, there's a place where the game can go after the end credits, which is basically Otherlands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Otherlands combined with Alice on a mission to use that ledger to hunt down anyone and everybody connected with the human trafficking. So this guy is a name in that book. And she shows up, and of course, this is her at the height of her powers. She can now manifest her Wonderland powers in the real world, hence Otherlands. And she can get herself into his brain and melt him from the inside out. And of course, hallucinate him to death with chaos tentacles. So the boy that you see there, who's being comforted by the White Rabbit, is one of the victims of the trafficking. So, once you've played through this and she's resolved all those issues and fully powered up, yeah, you now have an opening to another game where it's like Sherlock Holmes meets I don't know, some sort of like tentacle assassin.
Sherlock Holmes meets Tentacle Assassin.
Yeah.
I'd watch that.
There you go. Anyway, this is fantastic. I'm pretty sure this was Adam that did this illustration.
Looks like Adam.
But it was funny because I posted this up on Instagram, and I was shocked at I don't know why people were bothered by the way I captioned it. I mean, maybe the way I captioned it wasn't right. I don't know. But I wrote, where is it? Oh, what? Is this not the one where I said holes? Oh, it was in the teaser. There's a teaser to it. Here we go. What did I say? Want to know why this guy has tentacles invading his holes? You'll need to check out the latest. So people were bothered by the caption. Why?
Some people, hot buttons, pressed. I don't know.
I don't know. For me, I think it's funny because I know he's a bad guy, but everybody's like, sir, excuse me. I'm glad everybody else is just as lost about the caption.
It's like, Doctor Who hurt Alice? What, did he?
Oh, no. What is this? Caption straight out of Wattpad.
I think Wattpad is a place for fanfic.
Oh, I see. Well,
I heard.
I see. Well, anyway, so yeah, what? So I think somebody's saying it doesn't need to be worded that way.
So this is a Wendy's.
Yeah. I mean, I worded it that way because I know he's a bad guy, and I feel like if I can throw him under a train, I can kill him with tentacles, right? So I don't know.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
It feels like it's fair game to do that. Who knows? Okay, well that's it for that. Maybe you could turn off the spoilers, although I don't know. Yeah, so this was Adam's. This is kind of part of the process we go through getting to that finished piece of art, and it is a really cool process. I mean, I feel like even once the design Bible's done, I think you could sit down and compile an art of the pre-production book. Never mind that there could probably be an art of the game book later on at some point as well. But there's so much art also that we just don't necessarily share. Not just that we don't turn into posters, but there's a lot of this work that gets done that not all of it is shared. So I imagine there could be like an art of the pre-production book that's less about the design and story and than just focuses on the artists and their work.
Very probably. There is a ton of it.
Well, this is what Adam did as initial exploration to try to determine what that scene ought to look like. And I mean, sometimes you look at him and you're just like, she's a little blasé. Like, okay, so 3 pinches of salt, egg. Do I have enough flour for this? I don't know. And of course he's up there like, where is that tentacle going?
I guess we ended up with an amalgamation of A and B.
That is kind of correct-ish. Yes, it was an amalgamation of the two. I mean, it changed this. He ended up over there, and it was kind of an A. I mean, I liked this from an art standpoint. If you were just doing a poster, it reminds me very much of like Drew Barrymore in Firestarter, but this is like Tentacle Starter. But yeah, I mean, the boy kind of standing there like, oh my.
Yeah, he's had a terrible life of child trafficking, and then now he just gets to see some supernatural tentacles murdering someone.
Yeah.
He's going to get a game made about him in the
But
future.
but what I really like is this little touch of like, not only is Alice now like Tentacle Sherlock Holmes revenge John Wick, but also she takes this little like animated rabbit around. And if you were this kid and this woman like came in and started doing like, what was Wanda the witch, the red witch stuff, like started doing Wanda witch type tentacle magic crap on your abuser, but then this like little rabbit was there, I feel like you'd pretty much crap your pants. I don't know. you, but he seems pretty like sort of non-bothered by it. He's a little shocked.
A little shocked.
Yeah. Right. Well, spoilers again. Where's that button? Yeah. I will give them 3 seconds to stick.
This is a weird one. It's like the background was made how and by who, and the foreground again kind of looks like Adam.
Well, no, this is an Adam art, but I know that Omri went in there and did a little bit of like poking around on lighting and things like that.
But the background kind of looks like CG.
I think that's just because Adam's getting better. He was, so during the period where we were locked down, so unfortunately there was one period in there where Adam actually got COVID and he was stricken and wasn't doing very well for a few weeks, and so that was not good. But there was another period of time there where Adam took off and went to school to do a pretty hardcore like training course.
Right.
So I mean, I know that when I saw the initial of this, it was sketched. He was definitely sketching that up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to quickly enough scroll through and find that. Let's see if I can do it. See, it'd be cool if there was like a way to filter by only Adam's updates or something. I don't know if that's even possible.
Monday needs to be better.
So this is kind of part of it. So you can see there's this pool, this sort of reflecting pool, and you've got all of the characters arranged around it.
Right.
Can I zoom on that? It's just going to break everything.
Zoom, enhance.
Well, I don't know how to zoom inside the web browser. It's going to be like a web zoom, which we don't want. I thought that you could just zoom on this. Anyway, it's fine. So yeah, this was the scene in which that's taking place. So you can see all of the characters arrayed around them. Now, the spoiler part of that is everybody plugged up their ears? The spoiler part of that is that Shadow Alice has murdered all of them, right?
Oh my god.
So they're in this really dark place where all of these characters have been murdered, death killed by Shadow Alice. And then this is this reunion between Alice and her sister Lizzie in this sort of darkest of moments, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that the way this started off, looks like Omri was doing something 3D, but yeah, the sketch started off like this.
Cool, either way.
Yeah.
You know, nothing wrong with using 3D and then coloring in over the top of it.
Yeah.
It's all art.
Yeah. So, let's see, did he ever... Here's my painted update. So I think he just painted it. I mean, not just painted it. He obviously painted it much better than I could. So he says
Not as
here...
good as me in MS Paint.
He says here, paint over the statues because they looked 3D and remove the spikes. So it looks like he kind of went in there to try to un-3Dify them. I don't know. There's quite a bit of back and forth on that one, though.
Good pick.
It is a good picture. It's a great picture. For those of you that haven't seen it before, yeah, I mean, this is how the whole process works. Alex, who is the project manager for all of this, will sit down and pull references from the design Bible, and he'll go in there and give the art team these chunks of the relative, the related narrative and the design and stuff like that, and he'll give them some direction on like what the scene's about and all that. So, when you go through this is the content you can go over to Patreon and download. It's the dialogue between the characters. And again, this is what serves as the backbone to the design Bible that's being created. So two characters talking back and forth. the doll maker pops up at the end of
Oh
this
my
scene.
God.
Oh
It's a good
no!
job we've got spoilers on the screen.
It is. So yeah, that's how this scene setting comes up, and that's how you have the two characters talking to each other, and some work done on what Alice and Lizzie are wearing. That is a fantastic dress. Is that dress on Lizzie? Man, she's done up in that scene. That's pretty cool. And then yeah, that's how we get to these fine finished pieces of art.
That's how we roll.
There we go.
Cool.
You might as well just leave that on. Really. Because it's just it's all end of game stuff.
Is it?
So, yeah, so I mean, you're just basically welcome to spoiler stream.
But it's like, if everyone's super, then no one is. It's like if everything's a spoiler, then
Well, but look, this is part of the problem of the stage of the process where we're at right now, right? It's like I said, we are at the ending of the Design Bible work. We're in the final chapters of the Design Bible, which means you are at the scenes that wrap up the story. So yeah, I mean, there was a whole period of time when we started this process. Remember, way back, way back, and it was all about the circus realm. And the circus realm was like where all this kicked off. And there weren't a whole lot of spoilers. I mean, actually, there was a big spoiler that we hid for quite a long time in relation to the circus realm, which was that you were actually playing as the child and that she was inside the psyche of the adult. And for a long time, we held on to that and protected it like, ooh, that's a really cool twist. But it got to a point where it was like, whatever, we've talked about that. But now you're at the point where it's like Shadow Alice finally wins, at least briefly, and murders everybody. So, I mean, this was posted up in one of the things we wrote about over on Patreon. There was a post that I did that referenced the notion called Chekhov's gun, which is this idea that in a story, if you show a nuclear bomb on the screen, that nuclear bomb kind of needs to go off by the end of the story. And for this story, the bomb that we had been messing with for quite a while is the notion of Shadow Alice winning. Well, in a lot of these stories, you do have these moments where the villain seemingly wins, right? And then at the very, very, very last moment, even though the villain's caused a ton of chaos and murdered a bunch of people, the hero comes in and saves the day. So like Thanos gets to snap his fingers. He murders half the universe.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry, spoilers. We do have spoiler things on the screen there. So this is Shadow Alice's Thanos moment. How about put it like that? There is precedent for stuff like this. So I can't find that. Anyway, there is a whole, there it is. It's called Chekhov's Shadow over on Patreon. So if you wanted to go read a little bit about kind of the background of this, and also see some of this art in context of that post, that is in this post over on Patreon. And again, that's free to download. So if you're one of our patrons, you've already seen this art that's on the screen right now. But yeah, there will be a moment where, Shadow Alice gets her revenge.
I haven't seen those pictures. I must have skipped that.
They're
are
great. So awesome, and they are super, super dark.
Oh,
and
I've got so many good pictures. How do we just do like Patreon prints?
It's absolutely amazing. So look, when I see stuff like this, I will feel some pain for the characters in the game, but you got to understand that is part of the value of the way in which you craft the narrative, so you care that this happens. Like, if we don't feel ourselves emotionally whipped around over the course of watching a movie or reading a book or playing a game, then what the hell was the point of doing it, right? We want to be emotionally manipulated. We want to care about all these characters. And then, I mean, that scene where Hawkeye's playing ball with his kid and then he throws it in and the kid isn't there anymore, I mean, that was heart-wrenching. Like, that bothered me because it was just so family and American Pie and wonderful. And then the next thing, that is Hawkeye, right? The bow and arrow guy, yeah. And the next thing you know, he's standing there in a puddle of dust, and you're just like, dude, come on. I mean, it was tough, right? Well, this is the same thing. Although, what's funny is when I posted the picture of Shadow Alice murdering Bill the Lizard, a bunch of people were like, "Yeah, fuck him." So nobody likes Bill the Lizard. Is what I got out of this post. What do you got over there in the comments?
It's Octo Chicken mentioning another good moment in a movie where Captain America stands before the gates of Mordor before the rest of the army arrive. That was pretty cool.
That was good. That was pretty good. Right. So
People don't like Bill. Well, Word Roots likes Bill.
no, a lot of people, because so people are asking why they don't like him, because I think he was crappy to us in the previous game, and so people want revenge on him. So way to go, Bill.
Well, it's 11.
It is prize time.
Let's ask a question about the next picture.
All right. Maybe what would be a good one would be, what do you remember as your favorite or most memorable sort of like the villain wins scene in a movie that was like, oh no, they let that guy win for a moment, and then the hero comes back.
It's gonna be difficult to think of anything but Thanos now.
All right. Well, let me just explain how this works. You don't have to have a good answer. You could just type like blah into the chat just so that Nightbot sees you and you're eligible for the prize. But if you do have an answer of like a book or a movie or something where someone dies because they have to, and then you were sad, but then the hero wins in the end anyway, what would that be?
Oh yeah, Wismo has got a good one. The Mist.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty. Did you see The Mist? That was my first ever Blu-ray. Got that for Christmas from my sister. Yeah. So have you seen it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember, but go
It was
ahead.
the original idea that they basically made Half-Life off of.
Okay.
Portal opens, beasties come out, but it's all in like a mist. Things look desperate. Everyone's like turning on each other, trapped in a supermarket, and like a bunch of people make a break for it. And something happens. Like one guy, he ends up, spoilers.
Oh,
He ends up, he kills his kid because he doesn't want him to face the beasties, and everything's going wrong and the beasties are horrible. But moments later, like literal moments, the mist clears because like the army have fixed it, and like the troops roll past saving people.
right.
And he's like, shit.
So
It's something like that.
so there was one, I don't know if this really qualifies, but it's that movie that Villano movie that I sent you, where the little girls are kidnapped, and then they blame it on the sort of mentally disabled kid. And so they end up kidnapping him and torturing him.
Oh, what was that called?
And god damn, that movie's just hard to watch.
Good movie though.
It was a very good movie, but it was sort of like that. It was like they take their revenge to the extreme, and you as the audience are just like, yeah, best that. I mean, you're kind of asking yourself, like, wouldn't I do this? And then there's this flip. Was that a Jake Gyllenhaal movie? It was.
He was in it.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but anyway, that was one of those ones where like Prisoners. Somebody called it out. It's called Prisoners. I'm not sure.
But that also reminds me, because I said Prisoners reminded me a lot of Gone Girl.
Right,
And that's a movie where the fucking baddie
yeah,
like comes out on top at the end.
yeah. Well,
Fucking hate Gone Girl.
I like that movie.
It's a great movie, but I can't watch it because it frustrates me.
There you go. All right. Chekhov's gun. So we're gonna roll it here. 3, 2, 1. Wismo.
Oh, Wismo.
You even magically said Wismo. Well, congratulations,
go.
Wismo 898. You have won, and what you've won is the ability to choose one of the lovely, where is it? Plushie Dreadfuls we have over here in Mysterious. We have quite a lot now. We are making more plushies than we know what to do with. We keep having to expand our warehouse to contain all of them. Anyway, go there, pick a plushie, and then send an email to support@mysterious.design. Martin will get that, and he's going to be looking for your name and your phone number and your mailing address, and all of that in a clear and readable format. And then you do that within 24 hours, and we will send a plush to you.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. Okay.
Wismo898, who hasn't said anything.
That's all right. We'll see what happens with Wismo. So where were we? We were doing art review. Yeah, so back to the core point of all of this. I think that this could just be gratuitous nonsense, but it's not, because we're going to build it up in such a way. And she's got a clear motivation, and this is sort of the moment where the PTSD that has taken over Alice, or it's trying to take over, Alice's psyche, manifests. It's like, is she going to live the rest of her life, cynical and broken and angry, or is she going to let the child reemerge? And I think it's a cool way to illustrate the battle between those elements. And of course, again, spoilers, where's a button? As with many such stories like this, both sides kind of have to win a little bit. There needs to be a little bit of chaos mixed in with your inner child, or else you don't have balance and you're not going to be happy. So yeah, it's I think it's a good thing. And that pig right there, he definitely deserves it. Definitely. Right. Mock Turtle getting his spleen pulled out.
That'll do it.
That'll do it.
We're not talking about the Chesh one?
What do you want to talk about?
No, seeing Chesh ripped in two seems more talk-worthy than just some random piggy and the Mock Turtle.
I mean, talk about it. It's the Cheshire Cat getting ripped in half. There is a scene. It does have dialogue, and I mean, you can go read about it. But she basically goes on a murder spree across Wonderland, and kills a lot of your favorite, or least not favorite, characters. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. So what else have we got going on here? This is another illustration, I believe, also from Adam, but this is also a combo job where Adam did it initially, and then Omri went in and helped out. And this is this moment, yeah, where they're basically standing there talking about how to save Wonderland, and that she's going to have to go on this mission, and she's going to have to build this hero, and yeah, so very, very nice illustration. Did this end up being one of our art prints?
It did. We should show people what the next 6 months of art prints are. Maybe we'll get some people who want to join up to Patreon.
Is that what this post is?
No, it's the one after that. So if you go, well, you could close that, I guess.
Yeah, this one's confusing. They can't see what we're talking about, though, because we are still stuck on that Hatter image, but we'll get there. So, Art Prints 2022 second half, is it that one? Okay, I'll click on that, and in web review, we can turn the spoilers off. And so these are the prints that everybody voted on?
Yep, so right at the very top. So the way we say it is sort of like July patrons. So you can join in July, but you get charged in August.
I hate this conversation.
Yeah, so anyway, this is the next one. It's called The End of Madness. Yep, so this is the next Patreon print coming up.
So this is a scene that's supposed to kind of echo what you saw at the end of Madness Returns after she's murdered Bumby. Now, keeping in mind that the murder of Bumby is essentially what sets Shadow Alice off on her mission. It's like, I've got power to kill people now, push somebody under a train. It's like crossed a line, Now, he deserved it, of course, but at the same time, exacting revenge that results in the murder of somebody does something to you. So this is coming out of the train station into Wonderland.
Right. Okay, excellent. So if you scroll down, and the next one's month by month. So yes, these were chosen in a poll by our patrons. There's there's a double print month we do every year. I don't think they have names yet.
These are bookended for a reason, because there's this scene of Alice's christening that she flashes back to, and then it's mirrored by this scene of Alice emerging into real Wonderland out of the snow globe reality. So it's kind of a cool, like, two scenes across the space of the game that mirror an emergence transformation for her.
And that's why they come together.
They do.
There's the other Tea Party image.
That's the other angle on the Tea Party.
Mm-hmm.
Who called that "Just Eat Me"?
You did.
No, I didn't.
You literally did.
Okay. All right. So that's the art prints.
Yeah.
Great. Continuing on. So yeah, this is the Lord character, the one that you saw getting his pie hole invaded by tentacles.
Not the Font Lord.
Not the
He
Font
doesn't
Lord.
deserve that.
This is a different kind of Lord. This is a booze drinking, fork holding Lord with blood all over his shirt. Don't know why. This was the slumber scene where the moon is chasing Alice. Yeah, this is just a very nice piece of art. I think there was a piece of art that existed for this, but Alex asked for it to be re-rendered because the original piece of art just didn't communicate the scene as well. So this got done. So this is actually one of these rare early in the Design Bible images that we kind of had, but it was more of a stand-in. So this is the final.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody always mentions Majora's Mask.
Well, it's a big moon with a face.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like we're the first ones to make a moon with a face, so.
Ah!
Alice being eaten by Shadow Alice.
Alice
overcome.
overcome.
Yes, overcome by chaos and shadow.
And goo.
Yeah, so this is Alice having a bit of a sword fight with her shadow self.
That's a good one.
I like that one. This was...
Yeah.
Norm did this, and I think he got a little bit of coloring assistance from Omri on that. It's pretty cool.
I like that.
Yeah. And
stick an eye on it.
That'll make it. I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at just the notion of this. Like this guy's been helping Alice out and managed to help get her through the Queen's domain, and then like there's just this like ghost face killer Alice in the background, the Shadow Alice, who's just gonna be like dead. And the door is going to close before she can help. So, yeah. And, of course, eyes stuck on everything for surreal.
Of course. That's how you make it surreal.
Yep. All good. This is the Watchmaker's... I don't know. Is it right to say the Watchmaker's Revenge or the Watchmaker's... It's like the final chapter in Bumby's book because it turns out that the memory of Lizzie and like the love and the connection and everything Alice had with her has all been trapped inside of her psyche by the kind of memory of Bumby. So yeah, Bumby's dead. He got pushed under a train. But of course, he was all mucking around in her head during those therapy sessions. So there's this idea that in the follow-up encounter, which happens purely in imagination, the memory of Bumby will reveal that he's got Lizzie's memory trapped inside of this mechanical pocket watch thing. So that was the design for that. That's pretty cool.
We should make that. We've talked about pocket watches before, but in order to make them like good and not break, they would have to be pretty expensive.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of problems with like shipping a thing that has batteries and then shipping something that's mechanical, and if a year from now it breaks, people are angry. And so, you know, this is why like art prints and plush toys are great, because they don't run out of batteries, and they don't break and stuff like that.
No, Wendy, it would have the spikes.
Yes, to stab you in the hand. Oh, look at this thing! This is adult Alice after all of the tragedy. So this is like her in the real world once all these things are resolved. Her as, I guess, the headmistress or the purveyor, owner, whatever, of the Home for Wayward Children. So she's pretty cool.
She does look grown up as well.
She's all grown up and she's all happy and she's found a purpose in life and she's reintegrated her chaos and her shadow and all that kind of stuff. And she's got this book full of people who need to be tentacle murdered, death killed. So she's happy. It's all good. I mean, people always would say that. They'd be like, why can't you just leave her alone? Why can't she just be happy? It's like, okay, fine. There. She's happy at the end.
Fine, done.
It's done. Let's just get this game made so she can live happily ever after. Piece of art from Joey. There's the dark ledger, and this I think is supposed to represent the moment, the scene in which she kind of discovers the truth, the awful truth behind the selling and the Ratcliffe's role and all of that. So nice bit of tentacles, surreal art.
Visiting an octopus farm.
Exactly. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, we're getting to these. I'm scrolling forward a little bit to see if I could find the controversial image. I did post this up on Patreon, maybe it was last week, because as we said, where's that button? Spoiler things. Well, shouldn't that be in the middle of the screen? I feel like that's annoying that it's.
Keep it out of the way of the image.
I don't know. How do you know that the focus of the image isn't in the? Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. So there was a post over on Patreon called "Can We Be Too Bloody?" And the idea behind that post was to ask exactly that question: like, is there a limit? Is there a line? And I mentioned that I was triggered by this because the original image that got done was one where there was a degree of blood. And I just don't know. I don't like to see, like, you can show me Wonderlandy sort of over the top violence and stuff, but like the moment that it turns into this kind of real bloody stuff against the rabbit, and he just looks so helpless. I don't know. It's weird too, because like I can see the Cheshire Cat getting ripped in half and it doesn't bother me, but you stab a fake plush toy and blood comes out, and I just feel like it's too much. How do you feel?
I'm not sure. Maybe, I mean, it's not a hill I want to die on. I'd be happy with either.
Well,
But yeah, I'm still not entirely sure.
well, this is the final version that got done by Omri. So this is sort of like, as we said at the end of the game, Shadow Alice just literally kills everything, and the last thing, the last light that she snuffs out, which is why the image is drawn in this fashion, is that she has killed everything in Wonderland. And once she kills this rabbit, like the lights go out. It's just black.
Dun, dun, dun.
So this is an important moment, but at the same time, like I felt that the way that it was represented in the early sketches was somehow just kind of too over the top. So anyway, it's been kind of adjusted, and it's now more fluffy, magical stuff coming out, and then the lights go out.
Is that more disturbing? Like seeing its soul drifting away rather than just a bit of blood.
Well, this was the weird result of this conversation of asking the question. We got people on both sides of the argument. A lot of people said the blood and the guts don't bother me. More blood and guts, more gore, more horror. That's great. And then there were another half of the people that said like, yeah, I don't like to see violence towards animals. I don't like to see animals suffering. And again, it's really weird because like nobody brought this up. Nobody batted an eye when we showed Shadow Alice murdering Bill the Lizard or ripping the Cheshire Cat in half. So because I think they're so fantastical, our brains automatically process them as not really cute, not really okay, not a big deal. But somehow, like when through this entire project, I've only really felt squeamish about something once or twice, and this was one of those places.
Yeah, it's not been many occasions of that.
So anyway, the different variations exist, and maybe at some point there'll be some, like we said, like some art of pre-production book, and then they can all be in there. But at least for now, this is probably the final version of this. So
Probably.
yeah. Now I put this up just to remind me the David Hayter thing, just to remind me to touch on an update about that. I think that's got us through it. There's some stuff because we need to switch over and talk about the design Bible, right? So let me just go through this really quick. A lot of this art is over on Patreon, so if you want to go and you want to scroll through a lot of the recent art that was done, you can go over to Patreon and do that. So yeah, I put this up because I did want to touch on this really quickly. This announcement was made back in January 31st.
Wow.
So 7 months have gone by, and it would be fair for a lot of people to say, hey, what's going on? Where's news on this? Well, I am still privy to the behind the scenes things going on. And I think I can safely share with you a few important bits of data. One, I don't know how many of you have noticed, but like the situation with Netflix in the US really stumbled for a while there. So there was a period of time, like when this article came out, where there was this sort of joke that like you could take roadkill off the street, take it into Netflix and be like, I want to make a TV show out of this. And they'd be like, here's your check for $1 million. Go make the roadkill TV show.
Yep.
You could sell them almost anything, but they had a big stock price crash, and there was just a general sort of like loss of momentum in the streaming business. And I think that caused the guys over at Radar and David to kind of have a little bit of a rethink on strategy in terms of timing. But during the time that all that was happening, David has been working on his pitch, the story, and then also the presentation materials that go around that. And we chipped in a little bit. I think we may have given him a few pieces of art, and I've had emails back and forth with him, just on a sort of like creative and story type of thing. And so he's shaped the pitch. And what can I say? I can safely say, it's very different from, I think, what a lot of people might expect. And B, it's really great. So that's not an easy thing to accomplish, I think. I think that I had certain expectations going into the notion that, like, oh, there's going to be a TV show based on the Alice games. Those expectations were not exactly met, but the thing that's coming out of the exploration and David's work is something that I think not only complements everything that's gone on in the games, opens up some new paths, but also has the ability to link back to a lot of the stuff that we're doing for Asylum. So I jokingly wrote to him, not jokingly, I mean seriously, but it was funny. I wrote to him in an email recently, a couple of ideas or like suggestions for the final turnaround on the story stuff he's doing. And I said in the final note, I was like, and P.S., remember that when it comes up in interviews, you tell people that yes, you have access to a time machine, and yes, you went back in time to me in the year 2000 to make all this stuff link up between the games and this TV show stuff that you're doing. That way we'll look really, really smart, because it has all kind of come full circle. He's done some really interesting stuff that will link into like other lands, and it links into Bumby, and it links into this whole child trafficking thing, and it spans this whole range, and it manages to be something completely new and different. So I'm pretty impressed.
Okay.
That needs to be taken out and pitched. Now, in terms of when they do that, that's up to them. I think they're planning to do it relatively soon. So we just, keep our eyes and ears open, and I'll give you guys some updates when and if I hear something, which should be soon, I hope.
Excellent. Was it Shantibel actually said they lost almost 1 million subscribers on Netflix?
Yeah, they definitely had a big stumble, and it affected not just Netflix, but everyone who was building out their slate, be it Amazon or HBO or whatever, Hulu, or they all, Disney and their streaming services, they all are looking at this now and being like, ooh, maybe we should slow down our spending until we really figure out what it is that we're doing, right?
Right.
So that has had a little bit of an impact. But that being said, those guys are still moving forward. That team is still moving forward. I still fully expect they're going to take that pitch out, and I do think that the pitch is of extreme high quality. So even in a more difficult market, like we're in right now, I think that they're gonna find a home for it. So that's good. Now, if they do find a home for it, and I think they will, I think that's going to be very beneficial to what it is that we're doing over here, and that brings us back around to the design Bible, right? Because we can turn the spoilers off. So yeah, that brings us back to the design Bible stuff.
Excellent.
Did you see any comments or
A
anything
lot of people were just saying that there's a lot of recent adaptations that have been crap. I've not seen a bunch of them, but I've heard the same. Like apparently Halo wasn't great, and the new Resident Evil is supposed to be pretty shitty. So yeah, people are concerned, rightly. You have opinions.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all fingers crossing and touching woods.
But it's such a tough thing. Entertainment is such a tough thing. I mean, all of you that have been following along with what we're doing with the process of bringing Asylum to life, you have direct access now to this giant, crazy design Bible. And so you can go through and you can see all the scenes and the story and the characters and all this kind of stuff. I think that when you look at that, most of us feel like there's something really cool here. but there's still so much to be done in terms of execution, that even when you start with a really great plan, there are things that can happen that can throw that out of whack. And I think that happens with games, it happens with TV shows, it happens with movies. I was also going to make this point that, like, I think there's times where you get something good even when you don't start with a super solid plan, or you can get bad things when you do start with a super solid plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
think
So, anyway, I guess that's my way of saying just we all of us just have to wait and see.
Long-winded wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, we have some degree of control over what happens here with the game stuff, but I, don't really have a lot of control over the TV film stuff. Though I will say I'm really grateful that David, and the Radar team have invited me in to have some say, in the creative process. That's great, and I would hope, I think that some of the guidance I've given them has helped to loop everything back around. So hopefully, I've said to them many times, I'm not there as anything other than an advocate for what I believe the fans would want out of that TV show. I've said that repeatedly to them, that I'm trying to be hands off in terms of like my vision as a creator, and I'm more interested in trying to protect what I think the audience would expect, the fans would expect, right?
All right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right. So we're now at the 30 minutes. It's taken us a really long time to get to the design Bible, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Let's do a prize thing really quick. Do you have a question?
So we've mentioned some shitty adaptations that have made it to screen. Name some good ones. Has there been a good game to TV or game to movie or whatever, an adaptation that has impressed?
I'm just trying to think of like any adaptation I've seen recently. I thought the adaptation of Nick Cage's life to
The
screen
adaptation of that was pretty great.
that was pretty fun. I liked him. What's that called? The unbearable greatness of
The unbearable weight of massive talent.
That was
It's a great movie.
that was so much fun.
Sonic movies was I've seen the first one. That was pretty great,
so the
actually.
most recent one that had Jim Carrey and was that the actor wasn't Ryan. It was what's his name? Anyway, I can't remember. I saw that Sonic movie. It wasn't super terrible. It was okay.
Fine.
Arcane was extremely good, but was it really an adaptation?
I mean, it's based on the League of Legends world, but
Yeah.
I don't know if the characters exist in the game or not. I mean,
I don't
play
either,
League of Legends.
but I mean, I was super taken by Arcane and every way that they did that, from the way that they released the little mini soundtracks and the way that the animation and the show and the story and it was just incredible. So, yeah, very good
somebody,
stuff.
I don't know if they were joking, said Resident Evil. The very first Resident Evil movie didn't stick 100% to the plot, but I thought it was a really good movie. It went off the rails pretty quickly, and the rest of the original movies just became bonkers nonsense. Enjoyable bonkers nonsense, but I will still say that that first movie was not too bad.
Understood. So, by the way, we know that the main characters exist in game. The question was whether or not those main characters had that narrative in any way attached to them in the games. I don't know that as a not playing Arcane player, right? But I do know that they exist as in-game characters. So it just was a question of whether or not the lore of those characters was also contained in the game. Don't know.
Cuphead. They made a TV show about that.
I never watched it. Yeah. All right, we're gonna roll it in 3, 2, 1. We're giving this prize to Larry.
Lyrae.
Larry.
Sounds familiar. Maybe they won before.
Sorry, Lyrae. I apologize for butchering your name. I don't know how to say that exactly, but congratulations. Lyra? Lyrae. Larry. I'm thinking it's not Larry, though. I'm thinking it's Lyra or Lyrae. I don't know. Anyway, congratulations. The thing you have won is a plush, and I need to find the link to go over to the web. And we got to go to the Plushie Dreadful section. There we go. So you can go to mysterious.americanmcgee.com and you can pick out any one of the lovely plush toys over there, and we will send it to you. And you need to do that picking out and notifying us at support@mysterious.design.
Probably.
And Martin will get that email, and he'll want it to contain your name and maybe the pronunciation of Lyrae. That might be helpful, just to
Who
settle
knows?
the make us understand. But the name, the phone number, the mailing address, do that within 24 hours. Do it in a human readable, non-frustration inducing format.
If you could, that would be great.
Off
Thank
we
you
go.
very much.
Thank you. And she says, that's okay, thank you.
Hey.
So there you go. Thank you. Thank you for playing and winning. We want everybody to win. Now, let's get back to how are we going to do this? So prior to the stream, I was trying to think, like, what's the best way to encapsulate where we are today and where we're going next. So as usual, I can't provide full names and details, but I will say this. Tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, today, after this live stream, in fact, we are going to drive back into the city, and I'm taking Adam with me. Not Adam Naransky, the artist, but Adam Lang, my former business partner and tech wizard. And then Alex, who's in the chat here, he is going to join us via Zoom for a meeting tomorrow with what I think you could argue surely they're the largest game outsourcer in the world. They may qualify as one of the largest game developers in the world. I'm not sure, but anyway, huge
Are you not
team.
allowed to say?
I don't want to say it just yet. I don't know
Okay.
if it matters. I will say they're very excited. I will say that they've seen these materials. Their response to the materials was over the top. They said they see a lot of game design things, game design pitches and whatnot. And I think they literally came back and said they'd never seen anything as beautiful as this. And I think that's fair. I mean, you look at the work that Alex is doing here and putting this together, and it's like incredible, over the top. I've never seen anything so beautiful and detailed in my life either. So we're gonna go meet with those guys tomorrow. Now, we've already had quite a lot of back and forth with them, and also with a couple of other teams that potentially could be the developer for this. Now, why are we doing this? Well, when we first set out on this adventure years ago, I think I still had it in my mind that there was the possibility that we could become the developer.
There was that we make a team
Yeah.
talk,
Yeah.
wasn't there?
And then we also kind of had this notion that we would find some sort of existing developer and kind of build on top of them, and also do that in a fashion that kind of included like us maybe bringing investment and bringing more pieces of a team together and building something, you know. I've given up on that. I've given up on the idea that in today's market we could assemble a good team of our own. And the reason is because there's this tremendous amount of market consolidation going on around not just game developers, but content creators in general. And it's really hard and really expensive to find competent game developers who they're gonna have to already be working somewhere right now today, and they have to be willing to leave wherever they're working, at least on paper, so you can pitch them as your team to potential investors. Well, I mean, we've gone around and around and around, and every once in a while we'll find a developer where it looks like that's a possibility. But the timelines on this are so wonky that we can't promise that we're going to be able to start development, you know, at a specific time. So they usually end up getting other work and going away anyway, right? So then recently I just kept going around and around on this in my head, and I'm like, how are we going to solve this side of the equation? Because like I was saying earlier in the stream, there's this sort of three-legged table problem. One, you need a design, and it needs to be as complete and total and understandable as possible. Two, you need a development team, and three, you need the money to fund the thing. And it's possible to have the team and to get money just because the team is really good and they only need, like, on the back of a napkin a design. It's very hard to just have a design without a team and get money. Now, it is possible to be money and make something happen that shouldn't happen with a team that's not capable and a design that's not ready to go. But to just have the design Bible by itself, it's going to be practically impossible for us to get anything going. We have to find a team to partner this with. So I started thinking, development studios are all they're all, either internal, they're all working on their own projects. It's very hard to find. But outsourced studios have gotten to the point these days where an outsource provider who used to just do art, they nowadays can do the A to Z game development, the whole thing. Now, there's only a few of them in the world that are big enough to do that and have proven it. But one of them happens to be here in Shanghai. And I've known them for 15 years on top of that. So we are going to go talk with them tomorrow. And what we're doing with them is taking this design Bible and then dissecting it like crazy. And we're going to pull out all of the relevant pieces, and then we're going to budget and schedule the whole thing. That way, when you go to a potential financier, they can see the whole thing from start to finish. And we can say to them very clearly and very surely, this is going to cost X and it's going to take Y time. And that just makes the job of the financier saying, yeah, we want to get behind this that much easier, because now they have a known quantity. And they have a team, which is the other really important part of this. So the goal that I'm trying to work on here is to align the completion of the design Bible with the completion of what you would call like the production or development due diligence necessary to understand the scope, scale, and cost of this project. Put those things together, and we ought to be able to go and pitch to publisher, financiers, and in a rational, reasonable world, we would get something done.
You'd hope.
Yeah.
What was it called when you've got like circles of things and they overlap? It's like there's 3 circles and you can pick 2.
A Gantt chart.
I was thinking Gantt. It sounded a bit like that. You can have a design and money, but no this, or you can have money and a team, but no that.
Well, there's this old joke that like when you're going to get something made, you pick
Venn diagram. That's right. It.
You can pick that you're either going to get it fast or cheap or high quality, right?
Pick 2.
Yeah, but in this case, this is more like this chicken and egg problem of, to get the money to follow the work you want to do, you've got to satisfy certain things. So anyway, that's what we're going to go do tomorrow. That's all lining up with, by the end of this year, have the design Bible done. I also, by the end of this year, want to have this presentation for, here's the developer, here's the design Bible, here's the cost, here's the schedule. And then we can go back to all of the potentially interested parties and try to get something done. And I'm talking to basically like agents who work within the games industry who are connected to funds that would get behind something like this, and we're going to try to make something happen. So there you go.
You've been told.
Been told, yeah.
I've seen some people mention tarot cards a couple of times. We thought about it. It's currently in an iffy zone, a grey area, so it's a no for now, but we have certainly thought about it.
Well, I will say this. One of the things, because everybody wants a print version of this design Bible, and as many of you know, the Alice IP rights are split in 2. On the one side is the interactive rights, which is owned and controlled by EA. On the other side is what you call the linear rights, which is television, film, and lit, which lit is literature, books, print materials. One of the ways that we got away with doing an art of Alice Otherlands, or that we got away with doing Otherlands in general last time around, was that I went and did a license with the owners of the linear rights. Well, what do we have in front of us here? We have the contents of a book, and I've already talked to them and said we'd really like to be able to print and publish this. They are down to give us the license to do that. So there will come a point in the not too distant future where I'm going to sit down and talk to them and say, what is it going to cost us to get this license? And hopefully we can secure that, and then we will have a legal path towards printing this as a book and then sending that out into the world. And when we do that, we could potentially link up other print materials such as tarot cards. So that may be something where like we run a Kickstarter to make that happen. And before you flinch, as like maybe you've been a patron and you've put a lot of money into this, and it's important to know that a 300-page book to be printed is one thing, but the shipping cost just for sending, how much do you think it would cost to send like a 1 kg
Well,
book?
I could probably estimate that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 kilogram, which is probably underselling it once you add a
Well, we
fuck ton
did,
of packaging.
yeah, we did this the other day. I think it actually, when it's all said and done, it comes out to like 2 kg.
Eeh, probably $20-$25
So
to a normal country.
so it's 20
America, UK, Australia, Canada.
or $25 just for the shipping, and then the printing of it, even if we do it in mass, will also be $25 or something. So you're looking at like $50 just the basic cost for the thing. So anyway, I don't know. We need to brainstorm around this. We'll float the idea on Patreon. We'll see how we can make it work. But this book would be very big, very beautiful, and probably kind of expensive. So we have to figure out, before we pull the trigger on trying to get a license done, we have to figure out how to make that work financially. But we'll figure it out. We usually figure these things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other comments or questions in the chat? And did we cover everything as far as an update on Design Bible meetings next couple of months?
Think so. I mean, I did see somebody in the chat earlier was questioning Oz. Don't know if we could lead into that anyhow.
I mean, I'm sort of taking a break on it. We've pulled Adam back over to work on the Design Bible stuff on Alice, and I really haven't been thinking on the Oz stuff very much recently. Again, having to do with the fact that the whole Netflix implosion, and we thought, oh, we can take Oz to Netflix, and it's all just slowed down so much that it feels like that's not the right place to be putting our focus. I think that the much more fruitful potential big thing that could come for us would be still link the Asylum stuff up with everything I just described in terms of a team and a plan. I just have a better sense that that's gonna move than anything we might try to do with Oz. So we may come back to Oz, but at least for me, like a lot of my focus right now is just on getting Alice to a place where it can get made into a game, right? So that's it.
There you go. Whoever it was that mentioned Oz
Yeah.
that scrolled past minutes ago.
So what else? Do we have any
Ooh.
other questions?
Somebody keeps saying should remaster the original and that would help EA make up their mind.
Yeah, that doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way.
Sorry.
Cart before the horse.
Yeah, that doesn't work that way. Remastering the original would be extremely costly. It's questionable whether or not it would recoup its cost, and it still runs into the exact same problems related to getting EA to provide permission for that. So, when EA provides permission, it's because we've presented them a plan that says, you can sit there and basically do nothing and make tens of millions of dollars. And they'll be like, hey, that sounds great. If we go back to them and say, hey, we want to remaster the original Alice games, and you're probably not going to make any money, and we probably aren't either, they're going to hang up the phone. They might laugh a little bit, and then they'll hang up the phone. But if we, include that in a bundle where the new game is getting made and some portion of the funding is going towards some remastering, and that all plays into some sort of long tail DLC, blah, 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 then they might be interested in it as a piece to that larger conversation.
All right.
Okay. Any more?
Yeah, people suggesting like, what about coasters for Alice and like just normal playing cards? Still probably falls into the printed material thing that we mentioned earlier. So
yeah. Anything related to merchandise around this is in the same category, same problems. I know that Alex is in the chat. So Alex is the creative force behind this Design Bible, and he's been guiding the team on design and art and you name it. Alex, if there was anything I missed that we said we were going to bring up today, you could drop that in the chat now, and then we would mention that. But yeah, I think one of these days we're going to do a live stream where Alex is with us via Zoom. and we can do a little bit of catching up with him on what the team is doing. We decided not to do it today just because it's like the first time in 5 months that we did a live stream. So
Yeah, it's been a while.
Alex says hello,
Hello, Alex.
but he did not say anything beyond that. Yeah, somebody mentioning Oz. Yeah, look, I will come back to Oz. I'm not saying that it's not something that we're gonna work on, but it in a lot of ways, just like we got a lot of good stuff done, story, art, whatever, and it got to kind of a stopping point, and we were supposed to try to push that forward as a TV show, and then the Netflix stuff all fell down. I could be trying to push it forward as a game, but that would get in the way of trying to push forward on Alice as a game, because people then would be like, well, what do you want to make? Why don't you choose one or the other, right? So I don't want to do that. I don't want to accidentally cannibalize our chances of getting an Alice game made because I shoved the Oz stuff out there and somebody bit on that, right? I'd rather that we get our payoff for all the work that's gone into Asylum, and then we can worry about something like Oz.
There you go. So focusing for now. This is the time to focus.
So Alex says he's all good, and depending on how the meeting goes tomorrow, there might be some more content done for the design Bible. Yeah, I mean, I think what he's trying to say there is that depending on how the meeting goes tomorrow, we might build out more presentation materials that are linked up with stuff like schedule and finance. So that's true, but I don't know how much of that we're doing ourselves versus how much that developer might do. Will Alex be contributing to the score of the game? I know he's been writing small pieces that have been accompanying some recent videos. Sure. I think that, and that's Tom, by the way. Tom has done music and video stuff for us that's incredible as well. Tom Resnick. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity to have, a couple different voices and places where different people contribute. So sure, why not?
Why not?
Time to focus on Alice. Our girl's almost there. So you didn't bring any questions or answers from recent.
Sorry.
All right, it's fine. You're just falling down on the job. Why don't we go to where would be the place to find people's most recent
Post?
That sounds sure.
Maybe.
Oh. These live streams are always so weird. I always kind of think at the start of them, like, are we gonna have enough stuff to talk about, or are we gonna like get stuck partway
I do
through?
worry sometimes we're just going to run out of things and just like shrug. I guess we're finished then.
All right, bye. So let's see if there's any questions that need answering here. I like this going so far. Can't wait for the live stream. See any question marks in here? Love the new image. Oh, here we go.
There's one.
Aesthetic Stoner.
Who is in the chat?
Or wait, Ask the Tick
Toner.
Toner.
Ask the Tick Toner.
Ask the Tick Toner. No, Ask the Ticks Toner. Whatever. Absolutely loving the process. Question regarding the game. Any updates or info about how that meeting went to further develop the game? Which meeting is that? Is there a timeline for further DB design updates or an idea how much detail covered in it? First two chapters are in depth and it fades out rather quickly. Nowhere near being completed. Okay, so I don't know which meeting you're referring to, but I did just update you on this strategy with developers, and we're going to go to one tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. The timeline for the further updates, we, like I said several times, we plan to try to get the design Bible done by the end of this year. So we're now halfway through the 7th month of the year. There's not a lot of time left, to be honest with you, but in terms of the timing of the updates themselves, that's really largely up to Alex, because he has to get to a place where he's comfortable to share. And I don't know that he has like a schedule set out for like, oh, at this point I will be comfortable to share. But I think it's fair to say that between now and when the thing is complete, there probably will be at least one more update. So yeah, that comment regarding the kind of how did you word it? You said fade out. First few chapters are so in depth and it fades out rather quickly. I think that because we were in this heavy exploration mode in the early phases, and we were also moving much more slowly on the actual design Bible, the content tends to be really dense at the beginning, but then we got the story finished, and yet we've not given ourselves all the time to put tons of dense content in terms of art in there before we get to the end of where we say it's the design Bible in itself is finished. So this is kind of, yeah, a little bit of a problem, but it's also just the nature of the way in which we went about designing this thing. I don't think it's going to be a big impact on the game itself because the story is still there, right? It's just that the amount of art that goes along with it is a little bit less. Oh, and Alex
Oh.
even says that. I should have just seen that Alex says we plan to elaborate more on gameplay mechanics in the earlier chapters. Yeah.
Oh. Gary Macy has a question.
All right.
Is any more work being done to get to grips with the Unreal 5 engine? No.
Well, wait. Yes. So Adam, the technical Adam, the one that we're going to go to the city with later today, he is sat every day working on Unreal stuff. Now he's doing a couple of things. He's doing Unreal work around the Oz assets that we got built and was building out kind of a test scene for that. And the other thing he's been doing recently is related to our Plushie Dreadful. So he's been taking these plush toys and he's been scanning and photoing and mucking around with them to try to see if there isn't a way to turn that kind of content into VR or VTuber or other AR or whatever types of digital content for these types of characters. Now, that actually would play into part of what I have in mind for if we do get to the point where we are developing Alice and then we want to continue these live streams. What I would like is that the live streams continue within the world as we're developing it. And we're like, maybe you don't see Martin's or my face anymore, but instead we are VTubering as characters from the game. So that's partly why we're doing that kind of exploration. So yeah, Unreal 5 is up and running. I've said in the past, though, for us it would be kind of big trouble, like illegal, if we put any Alice assets in there. So that's a no-no right now. But we are using other things that are safe to do some of that exploration.
Cool. Got any, like, after the stream, could I see any of this stuff? Or is it not available?
You can talk to Adam about that after the stream. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it for the questions.
That's it for the latest post. I think
Okay.
the post before that was just print stuff.
Is there anything else that you guys would like covered while we're still here? We have a few more minutes. We're going to do one more prize giveaway, and that's it.
I need to think of a question for the last prize giveaway.
And what else did we want to cover today? Basically, that was it. Design Bible.
Art.
Art.
Lockdown. Didn't play Alice.
We did not, but we didn't have time for that.
Didn't have time.
Yeah.
But we don't even remember what you got up to.
What's the least amount to donate on Patreon? $1. One whole dollar.
$1.
That's right.
Yeah.
You thought about making collabs with other games? This question, I think, has been asked before. We think about it. Yeah, but as far as Alice goes, that's not under our control.
People are always like, put Alice in Smash. Be cool. It's not up to us.
Will Chris Verna still be doing the soundtrack for Asylum? Yes, we would like Chris Verna to be involved in the soundtrack, but I think that, we've had these questions like, can Alex do some music? I mean, what would be great is Chris drives some portion of it and Alex maybe can contribute, and somebody else can it's have a couple of different voices going on there, because it is that kind of surreal, crazy game. I think that it makes sense that you could have a couple different voices.
Okay.
What if Shadow Alice managed to exterminate Alice and completely destroy Wonderland and take control of Alice's psyche? What would happen to Alice in the real world? Well, she would go on to be a very cynical, angry, easily triggered, maybe murderous psychopath person who is completely ruled by her shadow. Basically, like,
Jack
just
the Ripper.
look at any politician in the United States. That's what she would become like.
She'd become a politician.
There you go. She'd become an American politician. How did you two meet? Grinder. Thought you guys all knew that. Recently, Nightmare. Hey, thanks for streaming again after the long break. It's good to see everyone. Okay, I think that's all the questions. So let's do one more prize giveaway. Did you come up with a... when can we see you again? Hopefully we'll do another one in 2 weeks.
Hopefully it's back to normal scheduling, but you never know.
You never know.
There's always some nonsense that could happen over here. Gates and fences being put up, travel crap, who knows.
So, what is the last question?
The question is... don't know.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask the question of... I know. What did you think of these? What do you think of these crazy new Plushie Dreadful ads that we're doing? Did everybody see that? It was at the start of the stream.
Oh, I did put it in web video review. We can look at it again.
Can they still hear us during this? Yeah. They can, oh yeah, they can still hear us. Yeah. So these ads we shot here in Shanghai. There's a series. I think there's 5 total, and I think this is crazy because I think we've managed to capture like horror, fashion, mental health issues, and some pretty extreme mood, along with plush toys. And I don't know that anybody in the world's ever done this before. Who's done this?
Well, I'm no expert, so just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it isn't done, but they do look effing great.
They really do. I told my wife, because she's a fashion designer, I'm like, look, if we keep this up, because people are asking us where they can buy that dress, for example.
Right.
I told her, if we keep this up, this time next year, we could be taking this business to the Shanghai Fashion Show, the Fashion Week here in Shanghai. Because it's just crazy. Like, the whole thing's just blowing up. People love these things. And I think the ads turned out so cool. And we're going to do more of these ads now, so.
Ghibli Girl says, go to TikTok.
These are on TikTok. That's exactly why we did them. These are ads for TikTok and YouTube and you name it. So, and they're doing incredibly well. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, lots of people seem to love the ads.
I like the ads.
I like the ads.
All right. Well, that's it. We're gonna roll it.
Roll it.
It is vegetable.
Vlad get able.
Vegetable. It seems like it's trying to be a play on a vegetable, but they've got a little lizard as their like icon. Anyway, congratulations to vegetable.
Vlage table.
Vlage table. You are the winner of your very own Plushie Dreadful. You need to go over to mysterious.americanmcgee.com, pick out which one you want, and then send an email with that information to Martin. You can do that via support@mysterious.design, and then include your name and your phone number and your mailing address, and do that within 24 hours. And you, vegetable, will be the proud owner of your very own Plushie Dreadful. There you go.
There you go.
That's the end of the stream for today. So
wow, we made it. 2 hours.
We made it. Thank you everybody for waiting for 5 months for us to come back, and for all of our patrons for supporting us and making this stuff possible. And yeah, I think that's it.
How do we normally end these things?
We just tell them to get bent.
We tell them to get bent.
I mean,
to get out the kitchen.
Thing. They can go and do the thing.
Oh, do the thing.
If you want to support what we're doing, you can sign up to the mailing list. That's one. You can follow me on social media. That's another one. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, or you can go to buy crap in the Mysterious shop. So there you go. Oh, by the way, the Mysterious shop crap that supports me and my family directly. That's not necessarily to support Alice Asylum stuff. Patreon directly supports Alice Asylum. Social media is a mix of both of those things, and the mailing list, we will not sell your information to spammers or evil people. So,
or will we?
Maybe we will. That's it.
Cool. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining in.
All right.
For coming back after so long. Seemed like a good stream. I enjoyed it. You enjoyed it?
It was good. Yeah, I'm happy. 2 weeks from now, maybe we'll do another one.
Yay.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.